Running deep in the World Series of Poker main event and winning millions of dollars is the dream of almost every poker player. But apart from praying to the poker gods for a run good and saving your one time for this exact tournament, what can you actually do to increase your chances of winning? Well, Adrian Attenborough has made the dream a reality when he won $6 million in the main event 2022. On his path to the heads up, he encountered some of the most interesting hands of the tournament, which showcased the skills that helped him achieve this enormous success. This video is sponsored by Prometheus Poker. In this hand, we are final 3 tables and chip leader Dobridge opens the button with King Deuce suited. Adrian is in the big blind with 47 big blinds and calls his 5-6 off. The flop comes King 3-3 with 2 clubs and Dobridge c-bets 1 big blind. Adrian decides to check raise. As the big blind, he will have more 3x hands in his range than the button. But is 5-6 off a good enough combo to check raise here? What does the thought process actually look like when you're in his shoes here? Well, why don't we try to find it out? Poker is complex. Could be that he was bluffing. Oh, really? That doesn't help. There's one last chance.
We know that he's probably going to be betting his entire range for maybe 1 or 2 bigs. So whether that's a GTO strategy, I'm not too sure. You're probably meant to check some frequency, but this player is probably betting 100. So then when you see bets a board like this, as soon as I'm holding a club and a spade, and then I'm not blocking any of his highest frequency folds, like which would be all 8x, like 8-9 offsuit, 9-10 offsuit, so all the 8x offsuit, 9 off and 10. Like as soon as I'm not blocking any high frequency fold, that's going to like skew his bluff to value ratio in terms of him having more value. I just have like I just thought this was a hand I'm always going to check raise.
All right, so that's a good point. You mentioned that obviously you think about the board and his c-betting range, but you actually didn't focus that much on your hand for its hand value, but more so on the unblocking effects, right? So obviously
yeah, 100%.
The club exactly and the spade as well. Not the spade, but the club will give you some extra equity, but both cards maybe have more value in unblocking his folds. Is that right?
Yeah, so, well, first of all, you have to identify where your hand is. So right now we have a complete bluff. We have pretty much very little equity. So this is a complete bluff hand. So when a hand meets the complete bluff criteria, you then have to make sure, a big factor is you can't make sure it's blocking his highest frequency fold. So if we had obviously the 5 of hearts and the 6 of diamonds, it would be a lot worse. That's why I haven't looked at the sim for this spot there. That's why we're probably not going to see like 8-9-0 or 7-8-0 and stuff check raise as, or maybe it does, maybe 7-8, but like 9-10 and Jack-10 and Jack-9, we're probably not going to see those check raises at a really high frequency compared to like 5-6 and 4-5. Yeah, so well, if we just like, if you press his check raise button, you're instantly going to see like the reaction versus c-bet versus check raise, and we're right away going to see like all this blue of 7x folding, 8x folding, 9x folding. So right away when we have that pure bluff, we definitely don't want to be holding at 7x and 8x. Like every single blue category of that offsuit 8x is or 7x is 12 combos. So between 7-8 and queen 7, that's 60 combinations of hands you're going to get to fold. So it's like, yeah, it's just little things like that we have to make sure we're not touching. And then so our now pure bluff kind of meets the criteria of being able to check raise, I think. And then you also have some backdoors to go with it.
So we can already see that you're theoretically very solid. How do you study in general? What's your approach to the game?
Yeah, I pretty much just use solvers to study. Like I will always record some of my session and then I'll just use that to review with solvers to make sure that I just really like reviewing footage, because that's when we get to see our autopilot game, our A game, our B game. We get to start really seeing how we're playing. So and then we're also just making sure we're not missing any spots that we don't think are like, I think we go go through poker and we're always like, oh, this is standard. But there's so many like nuances or little things we might be missing and just hands we're not writing down. So when you review footage, you're also reviewing hands that you just get into constantly, like button versus big blind and all that stuff. So maybe the big hands that you review, you're spending all this time on like 3-bet pots or a 4-bet pot that you don't even get to play that often, where it's like if you can pump out all your time on small blind versus big blind or button versus big blind, cutoff versus big button, and all those spots that you're playing all the time, then you're gonna have a very solid game.
So he then calls, and the turn is the 7 of hearts. You continue to barrel.
Yeah, I guess once we get this card, it's like, fuck, there's not much we can really do. And then now it just comes down to like what sides we are wanting to use. Now in this scenario, we have to go big. We have to because one, we got to polarize with our bluffs and also get value for our 3x. Also, I imagine if he has a hand like, I don't know what he's going to do with like 8-4 of clubs and all these type of hands, but we're probably going to get them to fold to 90% on the turn. So if we go too small, we're going to price in all of his flush draws, which is something we really don't want. Yeah, it's just a spot where we're never going to thin value on the turn, so we always have to start polarizing. It's also just like we have to start getting King X to fold. Like I imagine King 2 is meant to fold on the turn, to some frequency, or maybe it doesn't. But some King X is going to fold, like if he has King X with a spade or whatever. But start folding.
Well, we can look into it. So yeah, clubs fold, like the offsuit combos especially.
Yeah.
5 of clubs, 6 of clubs, 7 of clubs, 8 of clubs.
So just anytime you're holding King X with a club. I guess that's also for his reaction too. It kind of goes against when so he's holding a medium strength value hand. Just say you're holding like King 10 or King 9. I guess even King Deuce. So you have to make sure you're not skewing the bluff to value ratio. It just always comes down to that. So
before the WSOP, did you play every day? What did you play? How did your poker life look like?
Yeah, I guess COVID hit when it was like March 2020, and then from there I didn't really play much poker. I got my visa for America as COVID hit, and then I was living on the strip, and then the whole strip closed down, so no casinos were open, no nothing. I ended up moving there, and I just didn't play anything, and then a couple years went by, and I played very little volume leading up to the main event. I think I was playing online for a month or so before I got to Vegas and played the World Series. I just played the main event. I didn't play any other tournaments. I might have played a 1K buy-in with my friend when he got into town at the start of the series. So yeah, I was pretty rusty.
All right, so he calls, and then on the river we get the 8 of clubs, which
going to that river, holy shit. When you're running good, you're running good.
Right. I think the game theoretical player inside you probably is like, yeah, fuck yeah, this is my card. I need to bluff here. But are you happy about that, or do you think like,
oh yeah, I'm fist pumping the river. I'm like loving like. There's just like nothing I can do in this spot. There's like, I'm very happy with how I played my hand. The run out has come the way. If I bust this hand, I bust this hand. There's not much I can do. I also have a lot of 3x, so it's more, and then I also have a lot of flush draws. So it's not like if you get caught with it, if you get caught with your hand in the cookie jar on this spot, it's kind of just like tap your table, nice hand. He has the value hand, so I also get lucky. He doesn't have a flush. So
yeah, I think for most players it will be very difficult to find some bluffs here, right? Because you have to know that combos like the one you chose, like 6-7 off, you have to start check raising that on the flop in the first place. And even though it makes so much sense, I don't think many players will find that.
I mean, I think this is why it comes down to make sure you always study like just random spots. Like if you're not getting to a river in this spot and you're not putting them on 4-5-0 or 5-6-0 and stuff like that, it's like you're not doing good enough in your study in these like spots that are happening constantly. Because this is like these kind of button versus big blind spots should be hands that you're getting very familiar with. Because I don't think I've ever ran a spot like this. It's just more with like, if we increase our game theory knowledge and we know the blockers, it's like this just instantly fits into that hand category. So it's like it always has to come down to making sure you're doing the study.
To make studying the most frequent spots easier for you, Prometheus Poker just came out with their new battle app. With the battle app, you can practice everyday spots including multi-way on your phone, whenever and wherever you like. The AI-based solver gives you instant feedback on your play and lets you then explore the GTO strategy of your complete range. Find the Prometheus Poker battle app in the link in the description and make sure you equip yourself with the knowledge you need in everyday spots, just like Adrian.
This is a good spot of if you just focus your study on blockers, you'll find spots like this.
Absolutely. And that's probably why King Deuce is actually calling some of the time.
Yeah.
Against the shove. It's like almost 50-50. But of course,
crazy, eh?
Yeah, it looks crazy, right? It looks crazy to us because not everybody is capable of finding these bluffs. And
pretty much, who would we ever see turn up with King Deuce? If I got called here, I got sorry.
Yeah, I understand that. So the next hand you two played was the...
Yeah, we both get moved to the... He gets moved to a feature table, and maybe like a little bit afterwards, maybe an hour later, I got moved to a feature table, and which was a good timing because at this spot, he knows exactly what I've had. We've gone on a break. And then he's come up to me on the break being like super upset he didn't hero me. And I'm like, I can't believe he wanted to hero me now. So now I know that like he's wanting to hero call me and call me down. That's why like I'm not 3-betting the king queen suited pre, and I'm check raising the flop always.
Alright, so what we've learned from this hand is that knowing the fundamentals in spots that come up very frequently is extremely important. By identifying that 5-6 of clubs and spades is a common check raise bluff on the flop, Adrian allowed himself to have a bluff on a river that is quite difficult to find natural bluffs on, which won him a 23 big blind pot. A nice boost for the next step, the final 2 tables. You can review this hand and the simulation results for yourself by going through the link in the description. Make sure to watch the next video in which we'll cover the king-queen hand that Adrian just mentioned and in which he showed another necessary skill for running deep in the main event. Until then, you can perfect your bluffing skills by watching this video.